And so this is Chapter 8 on leadership. This is Part 1. There will be several parts because each video using this program only allows 15 minutes. So with leadership, what do you think makes up a good leader? What characteristics? Just like in pro-amateur sports, great leadership can be found in physical education, fitness, athletic training, and all other disciplines that are in sport and exercise science. These leaders can help in meeting professional practice objectives and increasing efficiency for all of those involved in their activities. There have been thousands upon thousands of studies on leadership. More studies are being conducted to determine the factors that determine good leadership. And leadership is not just in our field, but is in many fields. And if you really want to get into some leadership and leadership studies, John C. Maxwell and Stephen Covey in business do a lot with leadership and business. So leadership is the process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to work to achieve a common goal. It's a complex social process. The process of influence typically involves facilitating motivation in others, where the leader focuses on getting individuals to collaborate in the pursuit of a common goal. This involves creating a sense of vision or mission for the group, motivating others to join them in their pursuit of that mission, generate optimism and trust in followers, develop other leaders in the group, and to achieve results. They make decisions, provide direction, motivate and inspire others, give feedback, establish interpersonal relationships, and direct the group or team confidently. Successful leaders also try to ensure that individual success helps achieve team success. So leaders versus managers. A manager takes care of such things as planning, scheduling, budgeting, organizing. Basically, they take care of the business aspects of the business. A leader might have to do these things as well, or designate somebody to do them, but leaders act in other critical ways. A leader provides vision. They're concerned about the direction in which they're going and their goals and objectives. While managers keep things running smooth in the organization, leaders increase growth and maturity of the organization. Leaders try to provide the resources and support to get the job done. So some methods of choosing leaders. There are two methods, appointed or prescribed, or ones that just kind of emerge. They just become leaders. An appointed or prescribed leader is one that is in an authoritative position. Health club manager, coach, head trainer. These individuals are appointed by some authority to a leadership position. On the other side of that, individuals who emerge from a group and take charge, a captain of an intramural team, student leader of an exercise science class or an exercise class, they're referred to as emergent leaders. They emerge from the group and take charge. Very often, the emergent leaders turn out to be superior leaders. Why? Because they would already have the respect and support of the team or group. They probably already have special leadership skills and qualities, lots of experience, or a high ability in a particular sport or exercise. Regardless how they become a leader, there are usually 3 functions leaders serve. 1, to ensure the demands of the organization are satisfied, the group meets its goals. 2, to help facilitate group motivation. And 3, to ensure the needs of the group members are satisfied. And you can always throw in there a 4th one. In sports, you may be the group representative at a public setting. So a leader has to balance lots of things. Balancing the needs of the group and the organization can be very difficult. Researchers have tried to identify leadership characteristics and skills in the hope of being able to predict and select those people who are likely to become leaders. They also studied whether certain factors in a situation produce effective leaders, and whether an environment might be structured to better help develop leadership abilities. So there are lots of different approaches in studying leadership. These are just 4 that we're going to talk about, but there are so many more. We basically have the trait approach, which focused on consistency in individuals, and this was really the first to dominate the literature. Then we have the behavioral approach. It focused on behaviors. And the situational approach argued that leadership depends on the characteristics of the situation rather than the leaders themselves. These 3 approaches were combined into an interactional perspective, which really is the dominant perspective for studying leadership today. Leaders have a variety of personality traits. No specific trait makes all leaders successful. So what personality characteristics are common in great leaders? 100 years ago, in the 1920s, the trait approach was very popular. There were certain traits a good leader had. If they were a good leader in sports, more than likely they were thought to be good leaders in business. The book used Tom Brady as an example. They also used Winston Churchill, Gandhi, Martin Luther King. Would also be good leaders in anything they put their minds to because they had a leadership trait. It supports that leaders are born to be leaders. They have that trait. But they later discovered this is not necessarily so. Not always is someone a leader in one area to be a leader in another. After World War II, this approach lost favor, and a guy named Skogdale, or Dill, reviewed over 100 trait theory studies about leadership and found only a few consistent personality traits among leaders in the study. So in fact, leaders have a variety of personality characteristics. Although some traits might be helpful for a leader to have, they are not essential to being a good leader. This is why the trait approach is not used anymore with the leadership theory. In the behavioral approach, the key question is what universal behaviors, not traits, of effective leaders. The behavioral approach came next. This approach looked at what leaders do to make them good leaders. They argued that anyone can become a good leader. This approach suggests that anyone can become a good leader. Simply do what good leaders do, and you will be a good leader. This approach, unlike the trait approach, suggests that leaders can be made. Most of what leaders do falls into two categories. Consideration refers to friendship, trust, mutual respect, and the warmth between the leader and the subordinates. Initiating structure refers to setting up rules and regulations, channels of communication, procedural methods, well-defined patterns of organizations. Two distinct but compatible categories. When given tests on these categories, good leaders scored high in both. But researchers suggest that it is difficult for one person to exhibit a strong concern for both people and productivity at the same time. Often a coach who is strong at initiating structure, they typically hire an assistant who is strong in consideration. So what are the universal behaviors? The book goes over 3 different coaching studies, one with John Wooden, another with Jerry Tarkanian, and another one of 17 elite gymnast coaches. And they came up with a simple result. Focus on the positive while providing clear feedback and technical instruction. Another study in 2005 looked at the difference between coaches as leaders versus peer leaders. And they found that coaches exhibited more training, instruction, and autocratic behaviors than peer leaders. Peer leaders were seen as displaying more social support, positive feedback, and democratic behaviors than coaches. In this video, Dr. Horn explains principles of good coaching, and she looks at that emotional intelligence, the ability to understand their own and their athletes' emotions and help regulate those emotions. They might have wonderful pregame speeches to help arousal levels, and then self-reflection on play and practice and what can I do better. So this is the end of part 1. Move on to part 2.